Good afternoon. My name is Lindy, and today I'm going to take you through Palladium's general ledger. I just want to make sure that everyone can see the screen and hear me. So if there's any difficulty, please let me know in the chat. With Palladium's general ledger, I'm just going to share my screen. When we create a new company, Palladium actually guides us through the setup and what general ledger structure I want to create. Palladium also caters for up to 10 segments in your general ledger and a maximum of 30 characters. And these 30 characters can be numeric or alphanumeric. And I will guide you through that process as well. So when you set up your company for the first time, Palladium will give you the option to either do a manual setup, which is your own set of chart of accounts, which you can import. We also do have a generic setup that creates a chart of accounts for you, and it has most of the accounts in it for you, and you can change the descriptions and add into it where and if needs. Then we have a generic setup that gives you a template that's recommended, as well as an industry specific setup. So if you fall in a specific industry, it'll create the chart of accounts according to that industry. So if I just go generic for now, and I'm going to open my company where I've created my chart of accounts. Now, when you first open the company, the most important thing is to remember is to do your linked accounts. And what the linked accounts in Palladium does, it actually tells the system where each and every transaction needs to write to. So when we go into the linked accounts, you'll see we have our general accounts, which is your retained earnings and current earnings, as well as your default bank and your currency exchange. And you can go through the tabs and go do your payable control account. And if you do allow for prepayments, as well as on the receivable side, on the inventory side, you can have all your assembly costs. Now, this is very important when you set up a new company from scratch, to know that your linked accounts need to be set up, because that carries straight through Palladium. Each and every transaction, it'll determine where it gets written to. So if I do set up my set of accounts, I can go in and I can say which segments I want. So Palladium, like I said, do up to 10 segments and a maximum of 30 characters. And these can be alphanumeric or numeric. So you can set your segments up as you need them. And you can put in the characters that you want, and you can see it gives you an example of what your general ledger, your chart of accounts will look like. Once you've set up your general ledger and you've determined your segments, when we go into the general ledger, you'll see I can add new accounts. So it gives me all the set of accounts that you need, but I can change description. So if I want to call this my inventory control account, I can change the description. The numbering will change the same, and I can save that. Now, we also do cater for main and sub accounts. So if you see here, the system will tell you if it's a full account or a sub account. And when we say legends, what the legends mean is it splits the numbering. So you'll have your 1000 to 199 account, which is your assets, liabilities, equities, revenue, and expenses. Now, when you do the manual setup of the general ledger, you can manipulate where you want this numbering to lie. So you can make your asset account 2000 to 2999. Okay, when I create a new account, so if I want to add an account, we can build an account. It gives me my main account, so I know that this is a bank account and I can call it, so I'm going to create a new one. And I know it's bank. When I then go build the account, I choose my segment I just created and my sub account, and we can change the description. So you can have it bank 1, and you tell the system it's a full account and your account is created. Also, when we do start the system afresh, when you can do your accounts take on balances, and you can also do this with a journal. We can also tell if it's a bank account, for instance, I will come set the bank account up for reconciliation, which we'll cover when we do the cash book. But if I say, yes, I want to save this as to do reconciliations on my bank, it'll automatically ask you for your interest income and your interest expense accounts. And what Palladium will then do, when there's any interest charges on the bank, it'll write it to these relevant accounts. Okay, we also do cater for departments and profit centers. So you can set up different departments, and every process throughout Palladium, you can assign a department or a profit center so that you can track all the budgets and spending on that. So you can see I've got a test department here. I can say which of my general ledger accounts are allowed in this department. So I wouldn't necessarily choose all of them. And then I can budget this department. The same with profit centers. When I set up a profit center or a cost center, I can then tell the system, budget this center according to revenue and expense, and also which general ledger accounts am I allowed to use for this. And this will carry throughout all your journals and your processing documentation to link into the correct cost centers. Then what we have done in Palladium is we've given the ability to create journal codes. And a journal code is really just, it takes your general ledger account and you can mask the account, but this will allow you to use normal expense or general ledger accounts in any purchase or sales document. So when you capture an expense for a telephone, you can do your purchase invoice and you can link it straight into the general ledger account and it'll write to that expense. You can also change the way you want it to display. So I can, for instance, just call this bank, but I know it still links in to my linked account for that. Account sets, very, very important. So what we do with account sets, this links directly into your inventory module. With account sets, we can predefine if it's an inventory item, a service, or a buyout. And when I do an inventory item, I can now link a relevant asset account, revenue, cost of sales, and a variance account. If I do a service, so in this instance, if I create a service account set, it won't have an asset account because it's not a physical item. I can then write that to a different cost of sales account, a different income account, and also a different expense account. And this is the way you can then track all your inventory and which expense and income accounts it goes to. Then if I go to the inventory just to show you where this comes into play, when I create any inventory item, if I predefine it's an item, immediately in location, it'll have that account set available for me. If I say it's a service, it'll give you your service account set. And again, this is where it'll determine where your income and cost and asset accounts get written to when I transact against this inventory item. When I get back to my general ledger, so we do normal journal entries, and you can also do a receipt and payment journal. Now, receipt and payment journal will usually be against a specific bank account, and you would then record your expenses or your receipts against that bank account. We also, when we set up Palladium, we can determine if I can do a receipt and payment journal from the general ledger, because I wouldn't necessarily want all my users to have access to my cash book. They can then still do the normal journals, and the cash book can be done under the business, which we'll cover when we get to the cash book. Then when I get to my bank transfer, so I can at any time, if I've withdrawn money and put it into petty cash, I can literally come and transfer the money from my system. It'll automatically update both my bank accounts. So I can say I took it out of my savings account and to my petty cash. And in that way, you don't have to put in the opening balances, or it'll automatically have that transaction recorded for you. Then when I get to a normal journal entry, so journal entry screen, you can see we can do either a normal general ledger journal, an accounts payable or accounts receivable journal. If I go to a general ledger journal, I can pick my general ledger account. I can say if this is a debit, and then my contra account. So which contra do I want to credit? And at this stage, Palladium will ask you to verify. It always needs to balance for it to be able to record. But before I record this transaction, I can go preview my financials to see what net effect will this have on my income statement, balance sheet. So you can see here, if I go preview financials, and I want to see what net effect it'll have on my trial balance, it'll actually tell me on the screen before the journal entry is passed and after the journal entry, what is my net effect. Once I'm happy with that, or I can send this off to for approval with the export to email functionality, I can then come verify my journal and I can record. When I record a journal, I can also print and preview my journal. I can also save this journal. So if it's a monthly journal you do, for instance, your salary journals, you can save this journal and I can call it salaries. And next month, when it comes to doing the same journal, I can recall that journal. It'll automatically populate the relevant accounts for me. I can change my date and my description and comment if I need to, and I can record the journal. So it just makes it, if there's monthly journals you do, and there's quite a few of them, just eases that process a little bit. You can save the journal and recall it to redo the same journal. Okay, and then if we move on to my receipt and payment, like I said, it's linked directly into a bank account. So I will choose which bank account I'm doing the journal against. I can then say which expense account it was for. I can put in a line comment. Put my value on it, and I can record. And here you can see update the bank in detail or update the bank in summary. And that just means if I say update the bank in detail, it'll list every journal for me. If I say update the bank in summary, it'll take the complete payment and receipt journal and just give you a total on that bank. The same here, I'm going to record this one. And the same again, I can save a receipt and payment journal. And next month, when I want to redo the same journal, I can recall that journal and I can change the amounts, the dates, and the comments where and if needed. I can also add, when I record a journal, I can now go link it in to my profit center or my projects. Okay. Then once I move to my cash book, so we do cater for the reconciliation as well in the general ledger for the bank accounts or for the accounts, but you can also do it under the business module. What we do is we do cater for full bank imports. So a full bank import can be done. And when I import a bank statement, I obviously choose my bank account. I can say it's a new import. Now, most banks do an OFC or OFX export, but we have also catered for certain banks already with the format that they send it to you in. So if for this one, I'm going to do an OFX, I go, okay, I then go look for my file, and I'm just going to move this screen. I can then decide which transactions I want to take through. Some banks give you some of the same transactions on one. I can then delete those. I can also map a certain, so if the statement description or the reference is always the same, I can map the account. So next month when I bring in my bank statement, it'll automatically remember where it needs to post to. So in this case, if I click OK, it'll populate on the screen for you. You can then say, we see this is a payment. It was to a supplier. I can pick my supplier. And once I'm on the screen, if there's any transactions against the supplier, I can allocate directly on the screen. So I can say where I want to allocate this to and record. So that's your bank statement already recorded then for you. You allocate from the screen. Then, of course, we come to our cash book. And if I now want to reconcile my account, I can click on my reconciliation, and also just to get back to where I can do my receipts, payments, and as well as my receipts and payment journal, I can do it all from one screen, knowing that I am already in the correct bank account. So when I click on my reconciliation, it'll show me my opening balance. All I need to do is put in my closing balance as of that date and clear all the transactions. At this point, if you select all, and I'm just going to change my closing balance now. At any point, if your closing balance does not agree to your ledger balance as per Palladium, it'll give you unresolved and it'll give you the amount. So it makes it quite easy for unresolved to pick it up because it'll tell you exactly what the amount is that you're out with. At this stage, when I'm happy with my recon, I can now record this. Also, again, like in right through Palladium, I can print and preview this for my own records. And in this case, I'm just going to preview it. The system will ask you, do you want to show reconciled or unreconciled? In my case, I've reconciled all my transactions. So I want to see my reconciled transactions. And it'll show you what was your recon date, exactly what your opening and closing balance was, and exactly what went through your bank. And in this case, you can then double check and attach this to your actual bank statement for auditing purposes. Okay. Then also when we get to the general ledger, all in my tab, my first tab will always be my menu. So this is where I process and maintain my general ledger. On my second tab, you'll see it says ledger reports. And here you will find all your ledger reports, your balance sheet, your trial balance. In this case, I'm going to pull a trial balance. I can say also, remember, Palladium is not period driven, it's date driven. So I can pull a trial balance as of any date. Because it's live transacting and there's no batch updates, I know that my TB is up to date. I can click OK, and it will show me my trial balance. On all the financial reporting in Palladium, I can drill down on this and it'll take me to what has happened within that period on this account. And I can also drill down directly into the source document. So if I go in here, it'll tell me it was a purchase prepayment for that amount. So it'll take you straight through to the actual source document. The same as computer software, this will show you the journal numbers and it'll take you straight to the source document. Also, I can export as PDF, Excel, or Word. I can also email this document. If I now also get to my income statement, so I want to view my income statement month, comparative month to month, I can pull my income statement from a certain date to a certain date. It will then tell me for each and every month what was the certain revenue, expense, and income summary, and it will give me a quick graph. Okay, we also do have transactional reporting. So at any time you can pull a cash book report and you can come choose your dates for which account you want to see. It'll pull your reporting and it'll tell you exactly on which date which transaction was done, and it'll show you what your total should be on there. Then when I get to our sales taxes report, you can pull your tax report in detail or in summary. And this will allow you, when you pull it in detail, it'll allow you to see all transactions and also determine if the tax in that was correct. It'll drill down. You can also pull a summary and it'll tell you your input and your output VAT and what your net effect is on that. Okay, we also do, like I showed you, cater for the budget. So I can at any time can pull a comparative income statement to see what was my actual versus budget. So I can see exactly how I'm tracking on that, as well as per department. And then I can also pull my listing report. So I can see exactly my chart of accounts. If I want to pull out my chart of accounts, I'm going to pull this report. I can see exactly what my chart of accounts are. Okay, then on our third tab, we have our center reports. So I can pull per profit center, I can pull all my financials, so all transactions, budgets, and also financials. And I can, at a quick view, go into any of my accounts here and see what transactions was done from one screen without having to go into my trial balance. We also do have the journal entry screen, so you can at a quick view glance see exactly on what day which journal transactions took place. And again, from this screen, I can see exactly what my net effect was. Also the same as when I do any journal. So if I go back into a journal here, we've got this little green button and it'll really show, like the old T accounts, exactly what was debited and what was credited. And also from there, I can preview it. I can also at any time throughout the system come check which user entered this journal. And if I click on this, you can see who the user was and the date of this entry. If there's any questions, I'm more than happy to take questions through the chat. If there's anything specific that anyone wants to see, you're more than welcome to type in the chat and I will take you through that process as well. I see there's no questions. If there's any questions after the training, you're more than welcome to email our support department at support@Palladium, and then we will answer that. I see we've got one question. I'm just going to respond to this. If there's no more questions, thank you everyone for your time, and we look forward to seeing you in our next training session. Have a good day.